here. Um, how do you feel about the word hacks?
It has a really bad reputation now because all of those heinous Facebook and YouTube clickbaity life hack videos. But maybe it's well deserved, because what is a hack? On all those videos, it's unrealistic and bizarre shortcuts where often if you stuck with the simple or tried and true method, you would have a better or easier result. So
Yeah, I think that essentially the word hack has come to exemplify like a shortcut, like you're saying, and also like as if the secret were unlocked. Like this person, like everybody else that's ever tried this had to go the long way around, but this one person who happens to be a YouTuber figured out the fast way to do it. So yeah, I think it definitely has a sort of like almost just ridiculous kind of association now. But it's part of the culture. So we have people acknowledge immediately, oh, hack, it's a solution to something. So for our purposes, we'll use it, with a grain of salt at least. So I kind of broke this down into hacks that we would use for getting movement in throughout the day when you're busy, and then also nutrition. So, starting with that movement piece, one of the ways that people often overlook, right? We have in our metabolism, our calories burned throughout the day. Most people focus on working out more, but their general movement, their non-exercise activity or NEAT is actually an area where most people can improve upon. So I've been home for the day and I've already acknowledged how hard it is to move around without, just having a natural reason to be on my feet. So it's very easy not to move except from the kitchen, the desk, bathroom, back and forth in that circle. So I've actually had to consciously be like, all right, in the morning, go out for a walk. And then after lunch, go for a walk just to encourage it as well. Do you find this as you've been working from home?
I think being conscious of being at your desk for too long is very important, and intentionally finding a short period of time to move or walk. We have a hack. No, we have a combo because we have a dog. So and ideally, if it was winter, I would be walking the dog like twice a day. So that's a good way to combine two things, or it's beneficial for both entities involved. With weather like this, the pavement doesn't even get cool till like 8 p.m. So it's one walk pushed back, but at least it guarantees there's going to be a walk once a day, even though I think it's better to also break up your movement throughout the day.
So the hack is to get a dog.
It's a lot to ask for a hack. I don't know if it's a shortcut.
Yeah, that might make more work by solving one problem. But yeah, I mean, very good point. Like if you have some type of precedence to take a walk, then it's going to be helpful. Like for me, when I am home, I make sure that first thing in the morning when I wake up, I do go for a walk, just to kind of like set the tone and get some movement in early in the day. Another thing that I like to do is like I did after lunch today, like immediately after I eat, go for like a 10 or 15 minute walk.
That's good.
Yeah. So then I have an association with the habit, right? So a lot of people have like a 30-minute break. So it really only takes you like 10, 15 minutes to eat. And then the rest of the time you could just go for like a quick walk, nothing super fast, but just to use that time efficiently. Another way is I had phone calls with clients today and I just took them while I was walking as well. So, unless you have to look at something visually, while you're taking the call, there's really no distraction as long as you have good headphones and you're walking around as well. So those are a couple of things that I've implemented while working from home. Another one, I wear an Apple Watch, but you can set a reminder on your phone too. It reminds me to stand up every hour on the hour. So just spending 5 minutes of every hour, like just shuffling around the house, doing some push-ups, a little bit of stretching or flow, something like that. Do you do anything like that?
I did when I woke up this morning, but I want to start to add it more throughout my day. So I have a yoga mat and a foam roller. So started my morning with that, but there's a lot of literature out there that for working professionals, there's like an ideal concentration span. I can't remember what it is. Let's say for argument's sake, you can stay really focused and productive for an hour and a half. And then what I want to start doing, I think is a great idea, is when you take a break, instead of just looking at your phone after that hour and a half, throwing down the yoga mat and doing something. Whether someone knows yoga moves, that'd be great, or just doing stretching, or like you said, push-ups, sit-ups. I think there's a way to like maximize those breaks with movement. So having that equipment nearby is super helpful, even if it's just a yoga mat and some bands.
Yeah, that's very interesting you bring that up. There's an author, Cal Newport. He has a book called Deep Work, and he talks about that concept that like basically like in terms of like super concentrated like thought work, we're really only capable of like 3 hours at best a day, like really, really deep thought work. So it's like partitioning that efficiently is very important. So you don't burn out and kind of waste that energy on superficial tasks. But that's a good way to like break that up and parse it out throughout the day. So I'm a big fan of that in there. The other thing I would say, and this is more for if you're able to get out or when you're out, it's kind of tried and true advice. It's like parking far and take the stairs. So it's more indicative of just a mindset of, hey, I'm gonna squeeze any movement into the day that I possibly can. So that would be the hack or the opportunity to be efficient with your movement throughout the day, whether it's like skipping the elevator for 5 flights of stairs or parking at the edge of the parking lot, things like that, which may seem small, but do add up over time. Now, when it comes to workouts, and I'm sure you've experienced this, we don't always have an hour to work out throughout the day. It can kind of like get away from us. So say you only had 30 minutes, what would you do at the gym?
This is something I know I'll be working with you on in the future, and to implement and have precise workouts, because I think I would have made a mistake a few years ago or pre-COVID in not using that 30 minutes, like make it like this sort of all or nothing mentality. Like, oh, if I can't go hard, if I don't have at least 90 minutes for a workout to do an hour of lifting and 25 minutes of cardio, then I just shouldn't go. And I don't approve of my own past behavior, or I'll say there's room for improvement with that behavior. And so I think the time we've been working together, I've learned so much more about efficient or shorter workouts. And now I think I could construct something I'd be happy with in 30 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that binary way of thinking is kind of dangerous when you have a schedule that can be unpredictable or get in the way of workouts. So the way that I would approach is what I call an AMRAP mentality, which is, as many of whatever as you can get done in the amount of time. So this is there's a guy named Jason Khalipa, who's a gym owner, and he kind of put this out as like sort of a work productivity strategy. So it's like you have 15 minutes. What's the most work you can get done in that 15 minutes, rather than being like, well, I only have 15 minutes. I'm going to scroll through Instagram on my phone. So with this, it's like, hey, like an hour workout would be wonderful, but you only have 20 minutes. What can you get done in that 20 minutes? How can you be most efficient in that 20 minutes, and kind of flipping that mentality? Because you could either, after 3 days of those 20-minute workouts, have accumulated an hour of working out and probably kept your diet more on track because your mindset was associated with being healthy and being fit, or you could have skipped 3 days of working out entirely, right? So it's, those little actions in these little steps, these hacks are what they add up over time and have a bigger benefit like that. So that's the mentality of like, hey, like I don't have the ideal amount of time, but what can I get done in the time that I have? So in another strategy within the workouts, like, is supersetting, which you become familiar with as well. So it's just a time efficiency strategy of like, hey, I would love to take like 5 minutes between each set of bench press to make sure that I maximize everything. But if instead I'm supersetting it with rows and maybe some type of conditioning movement, I can get 3 times as much work done in less time. So just squeezing it in. How do you find that strategy for your workouts? Do you feel like it's improved them, made them more challenging? What's that like?
Oh, more challenging for sure. There are some big supersets we're working on in this plan. Like Monday, just a grueling leg superset, but I think it was great. It's a side Cossack barbell, I guess you call it Cossack lunge, then a rear lunge, reverse lunge, and then squats, all superset together, and like pretty high reps, and grueling, fun, and pouring sweat. So yeah, I've enjoyed supersets, and really I've only really been supersetting since working with you. That was not a specialty of mine. I was very isolated, station, on to the next one.
Yeah. And do you notice, I mean, obviously the workout intensity has been brought up. Do you notice any sort of decline in like strength or performance from doing that?
Probably. I'm not POing the way I think I otherwise would be if I was doing just isolated exercises. But I mean, it complements the prior 5 weeks I was on, which had less supersets and was lower reps. So I'm enjoying both, probably not feeling like I'm gaining strength as much, but I feel like I'm burning more calories, which is, very much on par with what we're working on right now with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's going to be a sacrifice in building pure strength. But at the same time, like that accumulation of work volume is important too, like you're indicating. Not like it's not purely conditioning. I mean, strength training and muscle mass is probably conserved, but it's just, how much work can you get done in set amount of time is often the question when it comes to like our specific goal right now that you're working on.
Right.
Do you watch TV at all during the week?
Yes.
What are you more of a couch person, or do you get down and stretch while you watch TV?
Like watching a program or two at night is a activity I engage in, with my partner. So that's like relationship time. And then lately, this is on track with what we talk about. If I'm taking my own time to watch TV shows, I'll try to combine it with something. I'm not a huge second screener, but I've been like trying to watch TV shows when I'm walking the dog. That way kind of two things are getting done at once. So I'm not allocating a ton of my own personal free time to solely watching like a TV show. And I'm an older guy. Like younger people are used to second screening, so they may be playing a video game and other shows up, or working and have a TV show going.
Yeah,
I don't second screen as much as some people.
Yeah, the data on the efficacy of that is not great, though. I mean, it's pretty clear that concentration can't truly be split. So it's like, I don't know, the quality of work there may be declining for some people. But one thing that I would encourage, if possible, if it doesn't detract from sort of the relaxing part of it, is like doing mobility while watching TV or something like that, like just stretching or foam rolling, like while the TV is on watching the program. Because often what'll happen is mobility and stretching and recovery stuff is the things that often get neglected. And this is just a really good way to build an association between I watch TV and I do mobility. It's two things that you'll enjoy, and also helps prevent you from kind of falling off of the thing that often gets neglected.
Makes sense.
Like that. Yeah. So, I mean, the for me, like the foam roller is not far away from the TV usually. And it's, it's not something where it's like taking your attention away. It's not really strenuous. So it's not going to detract from the fact it's a relaxing experience.
Right.
Like that. So, and then I guess the last one is just, like if you're spending time with people, are you choosing active things? Is it, instead of like going to get food, is it maybe go for a hike and then get food or something like that? Or is it ride bikes instead of just sit on the beach? So, choosing activities consciously to be more movement conscious and moving your lifestyle towards incorporating general movement throughout the day. Because as you know, with being busy, there's only so much working out that you can do and you can fit into your schedule. So then you have to figure out ways that your life meets movement in general. Like that. Is there anything that you like to do to get general movement in, like hike, anything like that?
Yes. Well, or luckily my partner likes to hike, so that's a good activity to engage in. Again, long walks with the dog really helps. It's a husky. It's the dog is, it's not a dog that can be tired out. And then we don't travel much, but because of that, I think when we travel, it's a lot of stuff is planned. Not necessarily we're doing like triathlons, but we're always moving. We're always going to the next thing. It's not a lot of like lounging by a pool with cocktails, which sounds amazing. No shade. But yeah, keep on a really like tight schedule with lots of movements, or even amusement parks. Just because we all know there's just a lot of steps involved with being in an amusement park. It seems like it'd be more passive activity, but it's just walking all day. Right?
No, it's definitely not passive. There's a lot of movement involved. Yeah, that's that, or like traveling to certain locations, you're like tripling, quadrupling your average steps for the day.
Yeah, just traveling, all the steps involved with that. But making sure I'm a real sightsee type of person. If there's some museum nearby, monument, I want to see it, so those are good for walking, getting out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the answer is to go to more amusement parks and travel more. That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, it helps. I mean, all of us got pretty stuck at home. And unfortunately, it's been like pushing 100 degrees here most of the week during the day. So like, you know, walking can be done during the day, but not always pleasant.
Yeah, you're gonna pay for it a little bit. So yeah, it doesn't have to be a sweat fest. Well, those are our hacks. I don't know if you saw my cartoon over here about hacks in the corner, but those are our movement hacks, right? But let's talk about the nutrition side of things. And again, these are probably things that you're already doing. So, you know, one of the things which I see we've both been doing on this call, so I know that we're on the same page, is making sure that you're really well hydrated. So a lot of times when people start to feel fatigued or, you know, hungry, there may just be an issue with lack of hydration. Now, I'm not a believer in the drink water before you eat to fill up your stomach. That's not necessarily true. Or if you're hungry, drink water. Like, your brain knows the difference between consuming food and drinking water, partly because you're not chewing the water. And that's part of the system that starts to release hormones to let you know that you're eating and that you'll eventually feel full. But generally, in terms of just your energy levels throughout the day and the efficiency of your body, it's amazing how many people are dehydrated throughout the day. So as a rule, which we've talked about before, you want to be drinking a half ounce per pound of body weight of water per day. That's just baseline. Now, if you're working out and you're sweating, you want to consume back whatever you lost within that workout session as well. So that's something to be conscious of and make sure. So generally what I'll find is if like you've accounted, if you're feeling fatigued throughout the day and you're like, I slept well last night, I've eaten enough, what could be missing? Question is always, how much water have you drank today? And the easiest way to know, and this is as basic as it gets, is your pee clear? If your pee is clear, you're hydrated, right? Yep. And if it's dark yellow, you need to start drinking water to catch up to it. So hydrating just all the time. One thing that I do is I keep a hydro flask, like a 40-ounce hydro flask. I carry it with me all the time. And I just make sure that I get at least 3, if not 4 of those in a day. And I just know how many times I've filled it up. Do you keep a water bottle with you, or do water bottle count?
I do try to run a water bottle count. I need to make sure it's more accurate somehow. So I average in 8 to 10 a day, but I need to make sure I'm really logging that. But usually water is kind of rolling all the time, or 3 or 4 at my desk. I always make sure it's within reach. That's for sure.
Yeah, especially like when you're sitting at the desk, it's easy to not have drank water for a long period of time too. So it's good to just be conscious. That's why I like the bigger water bottle, because it's just a smaller count. It's just like, I know if I've had 3 of those a day, I'm pretty good. Like sure. That.
Well, and better, you know, for the environment. But yes, and especially, so today is not a workout day, so I have to really intentionally focus on drinking water, because on workout days, I sweat so much, I'm so thirsty, it almost takes care of itself. Like, but on a day like this, I have to be very conscious to make sure I'm getting the water in.
Yes. Yeah. It's the same thing with nutrition sometimes too. Like when you're working out that day, it aligns your nutritional behavior with the workout. But then on the off days, sometimes people will fall apart. Like they'll either neglect to eat enough or they'll eat too much, something like that. So yeah, it's interesting how that one behavior aligns the other. Now, when it comes to eating, something that I always tell people is I call it like the 1 plate rule. So, you know, when in social situations, especially, or out of the normal context of their prepared meals or how they would eat, sometimes people eat things that are outside the norm that they would never do if they were home or they were eating with other people. Like when you go to a buffet, right? The classic thing with buffets is like everybody gets like 3 or 4 plates of food. And it's like, under what restaurant would you go to that you would order 3 or 4 entrees? It doesn't make any sense. So the thing is just eating as you would eat under normal circumstances when you're outside of your normal environment. So you just take the behavior, right? How would you fill your plate at home when you're being conscious of every macro? Replicate that to the best of your ability in the extraordinary situation that you're in, whether you're out at a work lunch or you're out to dinner with somebody. Like if you get a plate with a steak that's this big, there's no obligation to eat the whole steak.
Right.
Like that. So just almost the, you know, adage that common sense isn't so common, but it's like whatever you would normally do in the new situation, just do that. How do you, when you're eating out or it's a surprise meal out, how would you handle that?
You know me, always study the menu, plan in advance, know what you're getting, try to get your estimate for calories started or rolling or things pre-entered, you know? So if I'm knowing I'm having a plain baked potato, add it and then adjust when it arrives based on, you know, size. Was this 8 ounce? Was it 10 ounce? just staying in control of it. And of course, not peer pressure, knowing going in what your game plan is. You're not getting dessert. So everyone at the table can have dessert and they can offer you dessert and they can like their desserts, know what you're there for and what you're doing. You're not getting dessert.
Yeah, I think that's a great hack as well. Having a plan, like just knowing, planning ahead and just knowing going into a scenario like, hey, this could be challenging, but here's what I'm going to stick to as I go through.
Yes. Yeah. Thinking if you don't know the menu, the type of restaurant, learning like what are the better options when you eat Thai.
Yes.
Which can be better options for Italian, more difficult sometimes.
Yes. Certain food, cultural foods don't lend themselves to healthy eating because they're so calorically dense. I have to say Italian food is a challenging one for sure. Now, that also it kind of leads to, like you say, and I know that you do a very good job of looking at the menu ahead of time and planning ahead for eating out, budgeting backwards from that, saying like, I want to have this dinner when I go out. How should I arrange my calories earlier in the day as a strategy? You've been using that, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, calculating ahead, working backwards. So you know what you're going to have left and what you can do. And I mean, I'm changing the numbers all the time, like looking at things, changing portion sizes, also, to fit my macros as well. But the app makes it so easy. You can look so many things up and get an accurate or hopefully semi-accurate read of like what you're going into, what the macros are. The database is amazing.
Yeah. And that's, once you learn how to use the tool and you use it properly, exactly like that, it really does kind of set you free and gives you a lot of opportunities. So
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Jeremiah.
No. Like it can't be left up to pure guesswork. There's always a way, with the resources we have and the MyFitnessPro database to try to come up with an accurate number or the closest to. And, using common sense. If, was your steak also cooked in butter? Tasting and feeling for those oils food is cooked in and throwing it in there. When I eat out almost all the time, you'll see me add serving of vegetable oil. I just, you got to assume the food we eat are cooked in fat. You taught me that. Like, 1 or 2 servings, got to throw it in there because we know unless this food was steamed or has added oils.
Yeah, especially things that are cooked on the, like a flat top grill. I think that's really smart. And that, one other, I guess that's a hack too, is just, over budgeting a little bit and just being, anticipating those extra calories that are thrown in. The only way to truly control what you're eating is to prepare the food yourself and just be very accurate with your measurements. So you have to account for that margin of error when you're eating out, which is why it's much easier to make progress when you control as many of your meals as possible, because then that margin of error is reduced. It's not impossible to hit either like a weight gain or loss goal while eating out frequently, but it does become harder to hit that target for sure. I guess the other part of it too is, one of the things is knowing what your triggers are for falling off plan. Some people, when they go to a buffet or they go to like a barbecue or something, if they don't have a plan, or that environment could be, triggering for them and just cause them to overeat and get extra plates and things like that. So one of the big things is knowing ahead of time if you're going into an environment that can be challenging for you, and then also rehearsing how you're going to handle that differently. Like we were talking about, having a plan going in. So saying like, hey, normally I would do this, but in this case, I'm going to do this alternative path, and visualizing exactly how you're going to say no to people or how you're going to hold yourself accountable to only having one plate in a scenario. So just, again, it's another version of preparing ahead, but know where your weak spots are, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you do that when you go out to eat?
Yeah, and if necessary, a pull the ripcord tactic for that is if you're going into a bad situation, like you love fried chicken, you're going to do an all fried chicken restaurant. Now, granted, you could try to take the coating off, but have a meal beforehand. Sometimes when I know I'm going into a bad situation, I'll have protein powder, a couple scoops, shake. Don't go in hungry, like set yourself up for success.
Yes, don't go in hungry, just like the adage about not shopping hungry. I think that's smart. And also, I think one thing in here too that we haven't talked about is giving yourself the opportunity to have some of those foods and budgeting for them so that you don't feel super constrained all the time.
Yes, like finding the calories to have 2 pieces of fried chicken, knowing in a different scenario you may have sat down and had 8 pieces of fried chicken, like, and then of course, like, yeah, like saving the calories, knowing in advance where you're going, and if you need to save your calories for the day for that one meal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are great sort of general behaviors. We can stop using the word hacks. I mean, those are just good habits to put in place. Are there any others that I didn't kind of bring up that you've been finding success with?
Just exploring some of the new options out there with healthy snacks, with keto snacks, reading labels, learning macros, experimenting a little bit with like, wow, like for the calories, this is filling and it tastes great. Like the Quest potato chips, 140 calories a bag, almost 20 grams of protein, a really solid snack in my arsenal. So just having those things, you enjoy regularly that are fine, that are within, your dietary plan and are still satisfying. One bar's a really good example.
Yeah, I think giving yourself some variety within sort of like the constraints of the healthy goals. But yeah, like those cookies you turned me onto are great.
These are really good. It's an amazing approximation. So if anyone has that itch, I would say, hey, try these for 90 calories. I mean, if you want to go on a mini binge and have 4, it's still 180, versus what that would be like with a full-blown center of the store, off the shelf processed.
Yeah, their version of Oreos is definitely much more macro friendly than actual Oreos.
And then when you're getting and all these products tend to have more fiber and way more protein, or protein at all compared to their kind of junky low protein. So then it's more filling. It's more like the satisfaction's built in.